people know the neighbors next door. You hear them through the walls, their TV, their arguments, their music at midnight. But almost no one ever thinks about the neighbor above them, because usually there isn't anything strange about the apartment upstairs. Usually. Lena had lived in apartment 3B for almost 3 years. It was a small building tucked between two quiet streets. The rent was cheap, the hallways were clean, and the neighborhood was calm enough that she could sleep during the day. Which was important, because Lena worked the night shift at a hospital. She usually arrived home around 1:30 in the morning, made herself tea, and tried to sleep before the sun came up. For the first few months, everything was perfectly normal, until the footsteps started. The first time she noticed them, she had just crawled into bed. Her digital clock read 2:13 a.m. Then she heard it. A slow step above her ceiling. Thump, then another. Thump. Someone was walking. At first, Lena didn't think much about it. Old apartment buildings are noisy. Pipes rattle. Floors creak. People walk around at night. But the footsteps continued. Back and forth. Back and forth. Slow. Heavy. Almost like someone pacing.
She checked the time again.
Still 2:13 a.m. Eventually, the footsteps stopped, and Lena fell asleep. But the next night, it happened again. Exactly 2:13 a.m. Thump. Thump. The same slow pacing above her bedroom. Back and forth. Back and forth. This continued every single night. For weeks. Always at the same time. Always the same footsteps. And always directly above her bedroom. Eventually, Lena began to notice something strange. The footsteps never sounded like someone walking across an apartment. They sounded like someone walking in a straight line, back and forth, like they were pacing a hallway. One night, after another sleepless morning, Lena finally decided to ask the landlord.
She caught him in the hallway while he was fixing a light bulb. "Hey," she said, "can I ask you something?"
The landlord nodded. "Sure."
Lena hesitated. "Who lives in the apartment above me?"
The landlord looked confused. "Above you?" he repeated.
"Yeah, the person who walks around every night."
The landlord stared at her for a moment. Then he slowly shook his head. "That's impossible."
Lena frowned. "What do you mean?"
The landlord pointed toward the ceiling. "There is no apartment above you."
Lena laughed nervously. "Very funny."
But the landlord didn't smile. "This building only has 3 floors, he said. "You live on the top one."
Lena felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "That doesn't make sense," she whispered. "I hear footsteps every night."
The landlord shrugged uneasily. "Maybe it's the roof."
But Lena knew the sound of footsteps, and those sounds were directly above her bedroom that night. Lena tried to ignore it.
She made tea, watched television, scrolled through her phone, but her eyes kept drifting to the clock.
2:11 a.m., 2:12 a.m. Then the time changed. 2:13 a.m. Footsteps started immediately. Thump, thump, back and forth, back and forth. But tonight, something was different. Pacing sounded slower, closer. Almost like the person upstairs knew she was listening.
Lena sat frozen in bed.
The footsteps continued, and suddenly they stopped, directly above her.
Right above her pillow.
The silence lasted for several seconds. Then Lena heard something that made her blood run cold. A faint scratching sound, like fingernails dragging slowly across wood. Right above her ceiling.
Lena whispered to herself, trying to stay calm. "There's no apartment upstairs?"
The scratching stopped. Then something tapped the ceiling. Once, twice, 3 times.
Lena's heart began pounding.
Then she heard a voice. Soft, weak, barely louder than a breath. coming from the other side of the ceiling. Why can you hear me?
Lena froze. Her body refused to move.
The voice sounded confused, almost frightened. Then it whispered again. I've been walking for so long. A long pause followed. Then the voice spoke one last time. You're not supposed to hear the ones above. The ceiling creaked. Then Lena heard footsteps again, but this time, they weren't above her. They were inside the hallway, right outside her apartment door. Slow, heavy, walking toward her bedroom. The footsteps outside Lena's apartment door stopped. Silence filled the hallway.
Lena stared at her bedroom door, barely breathing. She waited.
Nothing.
After a few minutes, she slowly got out of bed and walked toward the door. Her hands were shaking as she unlocked it. She opened it just a crack.
The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no movement. Just the dim yellow hallway light flickering above the carpet.
Lena stepped outside and looked around.
Nothing.
Finally, she laughed nervously and shook her head. I'm just tired, she whispered to herself. She went back inside, locked the door, and returned to bed.
Eventually, exhaustion pulled her into sleep. The next morning, Lena woke to loud banging on her door.
When she opened it, 2 police officers were standing in the hallway. Are you Lena Morales? One of them asked.
Yes, she replied, confused.
We received a call from the building manager, the officer said. There was a complaint about loud footsteps coming from your apartment all night.
Lena blinked. My apartment?
Yes. He glanced down at his notebook. The neighbors downstairs reported pacing, back and forth walking, starting around 2:13 a.m.
Lena felt her stomach drop. That's impossible, she said quietly. I was sleeping.
The officer frowned. Well, someone was definitely walking around up here. He looked past her shoulder into the apartment. Do you live alone?
Yes.
The officers exchanged a glance, then one of them said something strange. When we checked the hallway security camera, we didn't see anyone leave your apartment.
A cold wave of fear moved through Lena's body. Of course not, she said nervously. Because no one...
The officer interrupted her. But we did see something else. He turned his phone around and showed her the footage. The hallway camera faced her apartment door. At 2:13 a.m., the door slowly opened, but no one came out.
Instead, Shadow stepped out, tall, thin, human-shaped, but stretched unnaturally long across the hallway floor. The shadow walked slowly down the hallway, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, just like the footsteps she'd heard above her.
Then the officer zoomed in on the footage.
At 2:28 a.m., the shadow stopped, right in front of her door. Then it slowly turned and looked directly at the camera.
Lena felt her blood run cold.
Because the shadow didn't have a head, it had something else, something hanging from the ceiling above it, long, dark, and slowly lowering itself toward the apartment door.
The officer lowered the phone. Do you know what that was?
Lena couldn't speak. Her eyes slowly moved upward, toward the ceiling.
And that's when she heard it again. A faint scratching sound, right above her head, followed by the whisper she had heard the night before. Soft, patient, right through the ceiling. Good. Now I'm here.
The police officers eventually left. They told Lena they would report the footage and check the building again later.
But they found nothing. No attic, no hidden apartment, no explanation. That night, Lena tried to stay awake.
She made coffee, turned on every light in the apartment. She kept staring at the clock.
2:05 a.m. 2:10 a.m.
Her heart began to race.
2:12 a.m. The apartment was completely silent. Then the clock changed. 2:13 a.m.
Lena held her breath.
But this time, there were no footsteps, no pacing, no scratching, nothing. Minutes passed. 2:17 a.m. 2:22 a.m. Still silence.
Eventually, Lena laughed nervously. Maybe it's finally gone, she whispered. She stood up to get more coffee.
But When she stepped into the hallway,
She froze, because the ceiling above her bedroom door was slightly open.
just a small dark crack in the drywall. Something was slowly moving inside it. Then a long, pale hand slid out of the ceiling, thin fingers gripping the edge, pulling something down. A face slowly lowered from the darkness above, eyes wide, unblinking, watching her. And then the thing in the ceiling smiled. "Thank you for listening to me," it whispered. "I couldn't come down until someone heard the footsteps."